Hi guys, Oracle here again, and you're welcome to another episode of the Pragmatic Approach Show. On today's episode, we will be discussing if America is still reliable under this government. But before we go into the details of the conversation, obviously I have to introduce my co-host and of course our guest, Asho.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe. Hi, show.
Hey, hello guys, hello everybody. Welcome for thank you for the invite once again. I hope we have a very enlightening and informative conversation and also an entertaining one. Thank you.
All right, guys. So again, like Phil said, please continue to like, share, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. This is a DEI channel, and we need all the love we can get so we can be visible and noticeable. So
Did you did you call this a DEI channel?
yeah, this is
Okay.
we are doing diversity, equity, inclusion, um, acceptability for All right, so
Okay.
today we're talking about uh if America is still dependable. So in the last 1 month of this new administration, there's been a lot of things that has happened, and some people have felt away, and they're not comfortable. They don't think this country still holds that position of its ability for others to depend on it, because America's greatness is largely because of the big brother role it plays across the world. Most especially in finance and things like that. And in the recent times, people feel like America is living up to that expectation. Our closest allies, Canada and Mexico, we're already in trade war with them, which new administration is saying it wants to annex Canada as America's 51st state and things like that. And when you go to Europe, he's turning his back against Ukraine, who is supposed to be our ally and is support of our adversary Russia. And just today, some of the European leaders are meeting and they are trying to now uh, find a way they can support Ukraine. And this is supposed to be something America should lead doing, but weirdly, we're no longer in the play for that. And even more importantly, even how it affects the African administration is trying to cut a major aid that comes from America to most of this African country, which is the USA, that most of this country relies on, heavily, especially in terms of using it to provide affordable medical options for the people. So all of this is causing a lot of people to feel unsafe, and it brings about the question: is America still that dependable big brother country, or they are? So I should let's. What do you think about?
The question is America dependable with all this cutting of the aid and things like that? I think one place where this administration is failing is in influence. Well, the other, I'm not really a big fan of democratic regime, but one thing I'll give them is that they are good at diplomacy and they are good at maintaining a good image of the country internationally. What America is doing right now with all these withdrawal of aids, I get it, is making the country more efficient. We are saving money, we are reducing our debt internationally. But at the same time, we it's also making America influence in the world diplomatically lesser. Because if you are taking away US AID and you're taking away all these things, but China and Russia are they investing heavily in third world and second world countries, it's going to sway countries away from American influence to China and Russia's influence. So I do get it that yeah, there's a lot of corruption in the system during the swamp, but there has to be a balance. If America creates a vacuum by taking away their aid, that vacuum will be filled up by Russia and China. So that's my brief general understanding on America's influence when it comes to withdrawal of aid internationally. Yeah.
So, but before show speaks, I get you spoke about withdrawal of aid. What do you think about how is is withdrawing support for Ukraine in this very difficult time, and Ukraine is supposed to be an ally,
So
and also is the trade war is trying to go with closest trade ally, the Mexico.
right. So if we even look at the deal with Mexico and Canada, all those deals, we understand that US is losing. Let's be honest. Mexico, they have cheaper labor, but they're selling, well, in American standards. So they're actually gaining more, and even Canada has higher tariff with their goods coming into Canada than the other way. So these countries are actually getting more in all these trade deals, which Trump is against. But for you to have your influence, sometimes you have to lose that battle. Sometimes you have to let those countries win for you to gain the upper hand. If you run a country like a business, you might have more profitability, but you reduce influence. Yes, business wise, it makes sense to increase tariff and to take away aids, but in terms of political influence, it's not that smart. That's my take on it.
Sure.
Yes, thank you for the question. So, not to play the devil's advocate, but I think taking away all these aids and also cutting aids to Ukraine is very understandable, due to the fact that our country is almost bankrupt. If care is not taken, our family will forever pay for this thing. And I definitely understand. But at the same time, like Haisha said, we're going to create a vacuum. However, if you look around the world, we've been giving aid to many countries for over 60 years now. And if you go back to those countries, you find that they are, instead of them improving, instead of finding improvements in all sectors in that country, you end up finding that they are much more poorer now than they were before we started providing them aid. So let's go back to around 80s and 90s. In Africa, there was a program that was started. It's called SAP. It's something about structural reforming. They tried to change how Africans were helping their own citizens by subsidizing local goods, right? So the government went in there and told them, you know what, if we if you guys reshape how you are spending your money, this can boost economic growth and bring in investment opportunities into your continent. So the IMF, alongside the United States, went over there and did some campaign, and they ended up not subsidizing all those local products. This created a vacuum for Western countries to go into Africa. And guess what? From there, Western countries took over entire Africa. Now look at Africa today, still poor, no any form of development. People are still starving every day today. Somebody right now, as I'm talking to you, is dying of malaria, common malaria. There's somebody that doesn't even know what they're going to eat for dinner or lunch, but these people keep getting AIDS. So Trump, being the kind human that he is, right? He decided, we know this will create dependency. We can even bring this back to United States. Almost everybody that gets aid, some type of government dependency, for some reason, they never tend to grow. It's mostly just a cycle, from a mother. Go to many hoods in America. You're going to find a mother living in the same house government housing that they've been living for 20, 30 years. You're going to find that the mother now has a daughter that's grown enough to have another daughter. You're going to find 3 to 4 generations living in the same house they've been living for 40 years due to government dependency. So, removing AIDS from Africa, I don't think it's a bad thing, considering the fact that most Africans don't get to enjoy the AIDS. It goes to all those politicians. So, with our country being in so much debt here in America, I'm sorry to say, but we're gonna say F all those countries and just take care of our own people. We have people in San Francisco, one of those liberal hellholes. You know, people are out there being homeless. Our veterans, people that fought for this country, they're homeless. But we need to worry about other countries? I guess not.
So if I mean you believe this age should be caught, long story short, I'll start with this. Sure, I agree with you that when you give people money too much, it creates the idea of dependency. It's a logical argument. If I give you money every time, you tend to become, ineffective because you believe I will give you money again and again and again, which is understandable. And I can also agree with you to a certain extent that sometimes some of this money don't even get to the actual people in some cases. But if we have to put a focus on the negatives alone of this it, and we don't look at the positives, and the positive meaning how it affects both America positively and how it affects these people positively. And I'll start with what Aisha said. America's strength and influence in the world today is part of because of those aids. That's why they can go to some of this country, get some of the thing and their natural resources and all of that, and bring it back here to continue to be a strong nation and all of that. So when you court these aids and you don't give these people anything again, another country will fill in that blank. Like Aisha said, Russia and China at least will fill in that blank. And what that does is that it strategically puts these two countries at advantage in these African and other countries. And that is how they would likely take over America as a world power. Because today, if you look at almost all the francophone countries in Africa, they are no longer looking up to America. They're no longer looking up to France. Guess what? They're looking up to Russia. Russia is providing to them weapons, money, and all of that. And in turn, these people are opening their doors for Russians, oligarchs to come in and take the natural resources. It's a quid pro quo. I would give
Yeah,
you this, you give me that.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, it helps Russia in its bid to become a stronger nation.
yeah. And I would like to add, right, aid has never, ever, ever been about helping Africa progress. It's no country has progressed with handouts. It has always been about having influence in all those countries. They give you 8 or 5 million, and you take resources worth 100 million, 200 million.
So the
And
aid, like I should say, it's not more about the country receiving it. It's more of the strategic position it puts America in those countries to be able
yeah,
to think.
and and since when we were kids, when has any American or European aid influenced our living in Nigeria growing up? We never, as people, even knew that we're collecting aid until recently that I heard about USAID. So it will never touch us as citizens back home. But the aid was just to launder money, funnel money into the Nigeria or into the African economy, give those corrupt politicians the money, and then even the white people give them the money, take it from the back end as well. Because they give you the money and then they sell you the item and then they take the money back from you. The same way, like, subsidy works with petrol in Nigeria before, Tinubu cut that off. So it has never been about helping the people. Why would they help you? But if you go to Africa now, China, even though they, of course, they have their own motives, They are building infrastructures in these countries that we can see. The people can see what those people are doing. Nobody knows what, as a citizen of Nigeria, no one knows the influence of America in Nigeria.
Exactly.
But we know, yeah, but we see these railways in Nigeria. We see all these infrastructures that China is building. So
Yes.
they are buying the influence in Africa,
Exactly.
and Trump is taking away that influence, and that's why you can see BRICS is popular right now
And if I
because
may
those
comment
guys are
talking
the
about
ones
that,
owning it. Yeah,
so speaking of that, right? So like you were saying about China, I was just going to mention the same thing. So in our constitution here in America, even though the Democratic Party, they've went full communist, it seems. But I'm going to bring you all back into constitution, something that the Republican Party of today tends to follow. Okay. Yes, we did pardon the January Sixers because they were, subjugated by the Biden's administration. But yes, to go back to Africa,
Say,
sir, you're
did
not gonna refute that claim, sir.
did
But
you
go
say
ahead.
did you say your party is a party of the Constitution, and your president just tweeted that anybody that tries, and there's no breaking of law when you're trying to save the country, and it,
Yes, when you are trying to save the country from a communist, you
and
know
it,
how murder can be murder, right? But
in
if you kill somebody that killed other people or somebody that may potentially, end the world, if you
my
murder them, you probably did the world so much good.
my bad,
So,
I forgot. King Trump is following the Constitution. Long
yes,
the king,
he's
King.
he's well favored and his approval rating is all time high. But going back to influence,
We will not tolerate lies on this show. Trump's approval rating is the lowest of any sitting president that is newly elected.
that's the propaganda that the Democratic Party has been trying to
Approval
funnel
rating last I
through the US aid. And
4%.
that's why we're cutting all this program. But let's go back to our constitution. So our market economy is capitalism. So why do we have to subjugate other countries to buy their influence? Why do we need to do that? Why do we need to make all these people dependent on us, knowing that it won't be any good to them? China is not necessarily doing all of that. Yes, they are buying influence, but they are buying it through, some type of capitalism. They're helping those countries to build their roads. They are building their infrastructures. Yes, they may take Chinese men to go build those places, but they hire some locals. But for
The
Western countries that have been going to Africa, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
not into the percentage of the locals those Chinese hire is very small, and they use them for the worst of the worst type of jobs. And also, most of these countries that the Chinese are in, they own some of their in return of some of these things the Chinese are doing, they are owning some of the country's assets. I think it was in Zambia. I would think it's Zambia. At some point, the Chinese were almost going to take over their airports because it was part of the deal they made with them. So you can see the level of influence that if Zambia had not lived up to a certain expectation, the Chinese could have taken a whole international airport as part of.
I mean, if you're gonna say that, do you know that we have some tollways here in America that are owned by other foreign countries? Yes, it's just Chinese government deciding to invest in Africa. But guess what? They are building their roads, they are building their water system and helping to build their infrastructures, which in turn most of their citizens enjoy. Before the Chinese decided to start investing heavily in Africa, most of the schools were dilapidated, right? Most of the roads were very undrivable. But with Chinese influence in Africa, which I'm not necessarily against, but I'm not for that either. I think if the Western countries want to have influence in Africa, they should cut out all those dependencies and instead invest into their economy, whereby most Africans will be able to go to work, provide for their family without having to depend on
exactly.
Americans or Europeans.
Yeah, but you see, sure, that dependency is a strategy. I don't think the Western countries want Africa to be self-sufficient. Because if there's any continent in this world that can survive by itself without anybody outside, it's Africa. Because we have everything we need to survive. It's just not refined.
Just to
So
dispute that right quick, United States, our country here, the God chosen country is still the most self sufficient. I just
no,
wanted to
it's
let
not.
you know.
It's not. Because if America was self-sufficient, colonization would have never been a thing.
Number one,
It's not
number
self-sufficient.
one advantage. I mean, America. If you ask me, is it the greatest country? I 100% believe so. But I don't think it's great because it has everything in it. The
Mm-mm.
great because the country knows what it has, and it also knows how to take what it doesn't have from other people and bring it here.
Exactly.
So,
And the
so
country attracts the
I
greatest minds in the world.
when you say a continent that can survive by itself because they have almost everything they need for their survival, it is Africa. But like I should also say, most of those things are also they are crude, not refined.
Exactly.
And that is where the likes of America, Russia, China comes in. It's like
Yeah.
you have something, but you don't have to turn that thing into an actual thing. So we will come and give you something little and take that
Mhm.
thing that you have that you don't know how to use and bring it over, refine that thing, sell it back to you, make money, and still sell it to other people and still
Yeah.
make money.
Yeah.
And
There was a story about Switzerland and Ghana where they were having this discussion about how Switzerland buys cocoa from Ghana, and Switzerland is known for the best chocolates in this world, and they cannot grow one cocoa in their country. Ghana was making about $2 million a year of cocoa, and Switzerland was making about 200 million.
look at
So
the
why would these people help Africa? Like, why would they help give us a DIY, approach? No, they will just rather give you little nonsense grants or loans to the corrupt politicians in your country, keep the people poor so that they can get resources for cheap, and then they can make all the money. So what Trump is doing will indirectly help Africans start thinking, but it is not necessarily good for America as a country on the long run. Because isolation means reduction in influence. And
exact.
again, you should also remember that America has its military
They have
bases in all these countries.
some of this
So
place
if you stop giving them money, they'll kick you out sooner or later.
and
You have to think about that as well.
doing in most of these newly African countries, especially the francophones and the ones that in the last 4 or 5 years there's been a lot of coup in the francophone
Yeah,
Africa.
it's
And
what they did.
invest
Yes, if I can talk about the francophones. So
so
they chased out all this. Go ahead. You
for
wanted
Russia
to say something?
here, it's a strategic positioning. It's
No,
putting
Russia's economy is not
and
that
and
large.
and if
Texas has
somebody
larger
said
economy
something,
than Russia as a
I
whole.
find it interesting. The person said the war between America and Russia may not happen directly. It would happen in
Oh, proxy.
it would be a proxy war. They would test the amount of countries each of them can take over, and by doing that, it would be dependent on the resources that are in this country. And if you would agree, I mean, and if trying to be honest, most of these African countries have more natural resources than other country or continent.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, look at Congo. So destabilized.
The
Why
iPhone
is Congo
a
destabilized?
lot of us are using is because there is Congo or to provide some of the things
yeah, the cobalt.
or something or the code that is used to make all of this.
Right.
Yeah, and human labor is so cheap there that you rather get kids to do it than use machineries. That
I
is
So
how
this
cheap they are
is
getting it.
this
I
is proving my point, though. You know, in Africa, we have some 7-year-old in mines digging ditches. Trying to dig out stuff.
I wrote an article about it a few years ago about the child labor in these countries and how these people are underpaid. Some of them are paid as little as $1 a day.
So why do we want this to continue by sponsoring those that are causing all this chaos in those countries? For this reason, I think I am definitely in support of Trump taking away AIDS. from
Oh yeah,
those countries. Because what do you want to take away from most West Africans? Do you? I mean, Nigeria especially. Do you want to take away electricity? No, they don't have it anyway. They're not gonna care. Do you want to take away water? Those people are already struggling.
see,
So
this is
what you want to do is make the leaders that are taking the money away, take away all those loans, or whatever you are giving to them. Take all that money away, make them suffer. That way they can produce things in their own countries.
I agree. I agree with you. From an African standpoint, it is the best thing. I pray we don't get those loans anymore. I pray. In fact, I pray our petrol runs out in Nigeria. I pray everything shuts down so that we start using our brain. So we stop acting ignorant and start producing. I pray all these things happen. From an African Nigerian standpoint, that's a good thing to happen. But I'm just saying, from an American standpoint, yes, hopefully, yes, it's good. We make some money in the short term, but in the long term, the influence will reduce. And number two, let's say we stop giving all those aid and stuff. What happens to the money? Will Trump actually reduce taxes? Will Trump actually do right by the American people? Because my fear is that all this money they're saving will just trickle back to the billionaires. Just go back to them.
It's what would like.
That's part two.
It's the economy. Trump's economy is the economy of the billionaires. So, unfortunately,
That's not true. So what we plan on doing with the money we recover, we want to funnel it back into the people, right? So one of the ways is what they can potentially do is pay off some of our debt. By paying off the debt, like we discussed on our last episode, that will reduce our national interest rates that we are paying right now, which is ridiculous. We're paying too much money than we spend on our own defense budgets on just interest. We need to cut that out. Once we can reduce the debt, once we can reduce the deficits, I think that's gonna overall bring down inflation and also boost our self-sufficiency. But going back to Europe, right? Since we are also discussing aid, Ukraine has taken away billions of dollars in our money, our hard-earned tax money. We've spent it into this country without getting anything in return. uh, you know, uh, and knowing the U.S. history, because if you go back to Vietnam, right, in the 60s and 70s, you know, at one point we got tired of all these wars, ongoing war where we're
Mhm.
spending billions of dollars with no anything in return. So you get war fatigue. We know never in this world would Ukraine win Russia. We know that it's a never-ending war. So why do
Oh,
we need to keep funneling money into that country where we
yeah,
know
see,
people are just
I,
going to
all
continue to go
I
ahead?
all those words are just corruption, by the way.
yeah,
And I think that's what Trump is trying to deal with. It's just a way of war is an avenue to make money. Because when there's war,
obviously
like
the
there's no time for auditing. They tell you it's not yet time. Everybody's emotional. Let's fight, fight, fight. And when things happen, thieves capitalize on emotions and then they steal money. So we all know that war is all these wars that is going on. People need war to survive. A lot of people need war to survive. All these contractors,
I I
government contractors,
I
they're on war.
also don't think anybody in their right mind thinks Ukraine is in this war to defeat Russia. I don't think so. Ukraine is just in this war to protect itself, its people, and its territory. So it's not a war. I'm not. I don't think they are going to this war to say we want to defeat, conquer, and take over the territory of the Russians. No, we are just trying to fight to defend our sovereignty as a nation. It's like we are neighbors and we have a fight. I'm not fighting you to take over your house. I'm just fighting to defend my own house. Like, yeah, this is my house, and you're not going to come in and take it over. So I think the way the Trump guys have been trying to make it seem is that Zelensky or Ukraine are going into this war. And first of all, they didn't go into this war. This war came to them. Now they are not in that war,
Mm,
and
no, I don't agree. I don't agree.
they are in that
I
war to
think I think
protect themselves.
Putin's Putin's hand was forced into the war. This is the thing. I There are nuances to this stuff, right? Once you see, sometimes you have to be careful, right? It was nothing is always 1 or 0. There's always like a gray area. Some people can make you punch them and be like, "Hey, he punched me." So we need to understand what happened before the war and after the war, because it's the media can be very tricky. The
The,
media can be very tricky. Mhm.
again,
Okay.
okay,
And
so
then knowing how we classify a lot of information unnecessarily, how would we know whether Biden decided to go talk to Ukraine about some certain things? I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, right? But all these people, when president becomes a president, they get access to some information that they don't usually get because Biden decided to block Trump's ability to get information whenever Biden was president. That's why Trump decided to do the same thing back to him as
well,
a retaliation.
that while
Hmm. Trump is petty.
one, the circumstance after the January 6th, two, there have been reports that Trump spoke with Putin over 7 times in the course of him after being a former president. Now
But what did they discuss? I mean,
they've
whoever found that they
so
talked can also have access to the
they,
fact that they discussed something. What did
the,
they say?
the communication was not made public.
But
Now
they knew that they talked.
it was discovered. It didn't come out to declare. Now in the past,
It
this is how,
doesn't owe anybody anything. It was a private citizen.
no. This is
No,
as a former president, you have a forever security clearance. Now let me tell you how it works in the past. When a former United States president has a reason to speak in his official capacity as that former president to any country, he would usually write to the State Department, and the State Department will send a representative to supervise the court for documentation purposes.
so why was he
Because
not charged for any espionage? Because we both understand that they can hear our conversation.
I don't think
See,
that how a former president is being treated. You're not treated as a regular citizen. You still have a high, you know, high security. You're still treated as a class. You still have
No, you cannot say that when they impeached him twice because of Russia, because of having conversation with Russia. You cannot say, "Oh, now all of a sudden they're not
so,
going to charge him because it was a
so
former
the
vice."
question is this: if you heard Biden was in talk with the Chinese government today, or the Russian government, or the Ukraine government today, would you feel the need to want to know what he was talking about?
Yes, I would like to know what they're discussing.
Exactly. That's what we're saying. Unfortunately, your guy refused to say what they were talking about. Now, the communication that he had with Putin when he was president in White House, he cannot run away from that. It was documented, and that was where we discovered that during COVID, when we were dying, he was actually supplying Putin's private hospital with serious medical equipment because that came up in conversation. When you do whatever conversation you have as president is recorded. You cannot take that away. I have listened to at least a couple of past American presidents that I wasn't even born when they were. I've listened to their telephone calls because it's documented. So now the problem here is this: I don't understand why Biden cut his access, which I don't think is fair. But I would think it's related to all that situation of how, first of all, the January 6th played off, and Trump's continuous, romance with the Russians. That
Yes. Let's not make this about Trump again, but let's go back to Ukraine, right? Let's go back to Ukraine. Why do you think Europeans are choosing to just continue a war they know they can never win?
because money is moving. Do you know how much money they've moved and
But
people are
this is
homeless in this
hurting
country?
everybody. We
what
have high
Bro,
inflation
but
I
people,
because of
but
the
people are
trust.
gaining.
know.
Bro, it's not about you, man. No one cares.
I agree with Aisho's position that there's a part of this war that some selfish rich people wants to continue because
Wait,
they
wait.
of it.
So, do you think egg being some dollars affects Mark Zuckerberg?
Exactly.
He's all. We're the ones that are suffering inflation. They don't care. What
They
do you
don't,
care about inflation if you're a
they
billionaire?
understand
If
that
egg is $7,
inflation doesn't
bro,
affect
it
that.
doesn't affect them.
They are not the one crying.
This guy, inflation. That's a
Al-
middle class problem.
Also, on the when you move away from the side of those who are beneficiaries of this unfortunate event, the most of these European nations still feel the need for Ukraine to defend its sovereignty as a nation, and also there is a fear that if you let Putin take over Ukraine without any resistance, and he does that and he takes over Ukraine, what do you think happens when a bully beats one child and nothing happens? He goes after another one because
No, no, not when the bully
now
understands that the other children have people that would defend them. So
no,
other countries around,
I think you don't understand that they
it
are,
doesn't work that
are
way.
so
Do they?
many to
Do you
come.
think Russia is gonna go to Sweden? Do you think they're gonna go
And
to
not
Romania?
before it even gets to Sweden, there are little countries like Georgia. These are countries that
They are
are,
all part of NATO.
they are very similar country to Russia. So if he takes over Ukraine today and there is no resistance and he does that freely,
Do
it
you
would
think
it
Putin
would
will want to fight against NATO? They don't
all
have
these
the
countries,
military capacity to do
countries,
that.
all these countries have no power.
No, you can no, but you remember
All
NATO, they have Article 5.
so I hope
So
you
if you attack one, you're attacking all NATO members. That's why it
understand.
doesn't want.
All these countries are not in NATO.
Which one?
Not all of these countries, all these little countries are in NATO.
And entirely all those countries around Russia has been already part of NATO. All those little ones. So now they told NATO do not go to Ukraine because Ukraine used to be part of Russia.
Okay.
All those Slavic nations, they told all of them, we do not want you here. Why do we keep pushing? Why? What are we gaining from this? Now in Europe, people are struggling. Everybody's complaining. Even here in America, we're complaining. Yes, we're doing something that's destroying our whole world. And nobody's saying anything. Now we have somebody that's trying to do something, but all we hear on the news is how Trump is bad, how Trump is murderous, how Trump wants to be a
So
dictator.
in terms of like when it comes to war issues, I'm a big Trump fan. Trump is a pro, let's discuss, let's make a deal kind of guy. He's not a warmonger. I always well the only time I never liked his strategy was when it comes to the Israel-Palestinian side of things. But with this Russia Ukraine thing, he knew that Zelensky was just prolonging this war to chop money. It was obvious because they were just moving money around, moving money around. You know you can't win this thing, yet you're getting more money, more money. Sit down, have an agreement, stop the war. And I heard somewhere, I'm not sure, that the reason for the war was because America wanted to create a base in Russia, close to Ukraine, close to
Yeah,
the Russian border.
it was a
And
it was,
Russia told them, if Ukraine joins NATO, we will invade. There was a clear understanding, but they broke that agreement.
but,
That's why Russia had to go.
but also, and I think Shaw and I had this conversation privately. Ukraine didn't join NATO. There was a talk around it. Now, I still don't see why or how Putin's invasion is justifiable. Yes, I know I've heard that there's an agreement between Ukraine and Russia not to join NATO based on the fact that Ukraine used to be part of Russia, yes. But now Ukraine is an independent country that
Yeah,
can
it's not justifiable.
that can
But like,
If I may
see,
come in this case, right? I'm so sorry. I'm
Ukraine
sorry
is
to say this.
a country that can do what it wants to do. Now let's even say now they want to join NATO and you don't want them to join NATO. At the time in February of 2022 when Putin invaded, yeah, Ukraine had
mhm.
NATO officially. So why there were talks? Yes, I agree. There was the but they hadn't done that. And you unprovoked attacked them.
No,
That is,
no, we
they
can't be
had
that
to,
naive. Do
they
you
had to.
think? Do you think Hamas? Do you think Hamas was going around saying, "Oh, we're gonna go attack Israel"? No, these people have intelligence system that understands and knows what's going on that the general public doesn't know. You know what I'm talking
Exactly.
about? So they were covertly going to this. They did this with many countries around Baltic region, right? So covertly they were trying to integrate Ukraine into NATO. And Russia knew this. So the same way you are saying Ukrainians are defending themselves, Russia can do the same thing whenever the
Every
USSR.
try to defend itself against any external threat.
What do you mean?
Every country has the right to defend itself against external threat. And I still, for one, still do not understand. Now, this is me speaking honestly. How Ukraine joining NATO is a problem to Russia.
Because America can have their bases and all the influence they want in
Yes,
Ukraine,
they're going
which
to
is
have
bordering
satellites and
Russia.
everything.
Tell you something. Imagine Russia having bases in Cuba or in Mexico, close to the border of America. What do you think America is going to do?
Wipe
They'll
all
mess
that
up that
nation
place.
out.
Wipe real quick.
The whole nation.
So this is a like Russia is like a
I,
giant, just like America.
I
So
can understand what you guys just said now. Yes, America would not also let an adversary have that close, you
yeah,
know,
proximity, yeah,
proximity
influence,
to them, especially when you know it would compromise your national security.
Exactly. Why do you
security.
think China is defending Taiwan so badly that this is our own territory? Do not
Yeah,
come over here. There's a reason for that. They know these are adversaries. If they have that
yeah.
opportunity to capture us, why
Oh
should
yeah,
you wait till they come into your own country? I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I understand why Europeans are trying to get Ukraine all the money they can. That way, Russia doesn't come into their own countries. But it's almost naive to believe that because we know Russia doesn't have the capability to fight the entire
see
NATO.
so I believe even though that's one reason. I also believe that one of maybe Putin's fantasy is to have USSR strong again as an empire. So if he has his way, he's going to bring USSR. That what was it? What was the empire called again?
Soviet Union.
Soviet Union. Thank you. It will bring it back. That is probably because most Ukrainians are old Russians. They are old Soviet people. So and that happened when they crumbled. So that is probably one of his things again.
Yes, but he understands, like everybody, nobody can deny the fact that Putin is a very strong guy and a very
Hmm.
intelligent guy. He
I think
knows this guy has a doctorate in
he's
as
just
an economist, right?
the world leader. It's not even probably he's smarter than Joe.
Everybody.
So
There you go. So he understands that
no,
he cannot fight the whole
have
world.
you read about Putin and how it started? Putin started as a spy. You cannot be a Russian spy if you're not. It was a KGB agent. You cannot be that guy if you're not smart. He's a manipulator.
Hmm.
He knows when to show force. He knows when to be humble to get things out. And with Trump, you know what he's doing with Trump? He realizes force will not work with Trump. A psychophancy that works with him. Like
See,
when they make him feel like he's
Trump.
the guy in the room, and you'll be able to get things
See,
out. Did you just? I mean, I think it was just yesterday. He released a statement that he's impressed with what Trump is doing. Now he's looking forward for both of them to meet and find a light. So, and that's what Trump likes to hear. He'll Trump make it feel like the best.
so Trump is a fan. Trump is a big fan of Putin. Trump admires Putin. It's obvious to see. And then Putin knows that. So Putin is appealing to his ego. And that's why now Trump is going against Ukraine, who's supposed to be the ally.
And that is unfortunate
So
because now
yeah,
the me- the message that's sent out of America to all these other European nations is that we are not with you. If Trump can watch one of our allies dry up in the without care, it sends a message, and that is part of why today's conversation is important. Is America dependable? Because now the French are looking at you like, yeah, this guy's not dependable. We the UK is looking at you with the same eyes, like, who is this guy? You're not being dependable. You're not keeping to the end of the bargain as it used to be that we all stick together against Russia and against China. Now suddenly
Right.
you are
Um.
found in Russia, and I don't
Right.
think
Yeah.
or ever believe that Russia of Americans. Any love that Putin is showing right now is strategic.
No, of course, of course.
It
Everything Putin done is strategic.
is to get something out, and there's nothing we can get from Russia. What do we want to get from?
We can get so much from Russia, by the
Like,
way. Their natural resources, the vast land that they have.
they
We
find that they have to do what's there.
uh, for all the natural resources, we can explore
Bro,
their lands.
Russia's
most of their land,
itself.
explore which land?
Yes,
Is it your
all
land?
those places that are below 0 degree all the time, we can explore those
Mhm.
places and get all the rare earth,
And you
mineral resources that we're trying to
We
get.
bought we bought Alaska from Russia already. We don't need the other
We need more. We need more. So
Siberia.
I don't think we should be sanctioning countries. I think we can all collaborate for the betterment of the whole world.
Yeah,
We need to work
and
together. Russia has been trying to integrate into the Western country, but they are still trying to keep their own influence because of their
Mhm.
1,000 year history. They don't want to lose it.
Mhm.
How about
Yeah,
we
which
understand Russia for what it is and just work with them? We don't have to influence every nation. We try to push LGBTQ stuff. Most nations on earth rejected that stuff because it doesn't align with their nature or their culture. Just leave
yeah,
them
and
alone.
so so
yeah,
so so
and this and that's why you notice they have more influence in Africa because they don't interfere with your culture. They do business and they give you a boundary. Choose your leader, do your culture. But America is always overstepping, try to pick a leader for you and pick your ideology. Those things too, it's kind of reducing America's influence in Africa as
I
well.
think
Exactly.
I think if you followed America history and politics, the first thing America exports to the world is the idea of democracy. That's their biggest export, and that's why a lot of African countries may not be very much receptive of that idea because half the African countries, even those that practice,
That's not true. That's not true. They claim they give us democracy, but they don't. As long as you're an American ally as an head of state, you can be there for 50 years. Look at all these countries, all these
I,
Gabon, all these
I
Burkina Faso.
agree with you on that too, to a certain extent. That
Mm-mm.
countries in Africa, obviously, they have long president who's been there longer. But at the end of the day, they export democracy to those countries, but they cannot force their ways into making these people practice it. And I still largely I believe democracy is the best system of government, but I don't think it's the best system of government for Africa, especially this current with the current set of leaders we have. But would hope that as time goes on, the whole Africa will catch up fully with the idea of democracy, and maybe that would help us a little bit more better in Africa.
Yes, sir. And then to bring this episode uh to the end, hi show, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I think yes, it's good for the government to be efficient. We shouldn't waste money. We should curb corruption. Maybe hopefully that would reduce inflation. But we can do all those within the country because there's so much money being wasted. But when we go outside the country, we need to be very, very cautious of okay, if we reduce aid and all those other countries give aid, then we're going to lose influence. Or rather than give aid to the country, why don't we give opportunity to those countries? Why don't you build infrastructures within those countries and make it mutually beneficial? America can change the strategy to improve influence rather than using the military and bribe. So Trump can find a smart way to keep influence but keep efficiency. Take away the useless people and give money to the people whose life you can change. That way, America can do both. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's what.
All right, thank you, High Show. So I think America should keep its influence. We are not taking away all the aids. We're still keeping some. We're just taking some, and we are auditing everything to make sure there are no
Yeah,
rules. Go
and I
ahead.
would like to add, I would like to add, at no point in time will I ever want China to be a superpower. God forbid. I will say the truth, God forbid. I'd rather America remain the superpower because you have the freedom to come here, work, have a good life. You can't do that in China. Now it's a socialist country which I don't understand. I
Abs-
still like capitalism because it gives me the right to grow. So I still want America to keep its influence, but yet America should be just do the right thing and give people opportunity.
yes.
So yeah, that's it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want to keep America on top of the world because the world under America has been proven to be better. It's more cohesive, it's less tyrannical. So, with that being said, I believe we need to cut some aid that are going to all those corrupt leaders in Africa and other parts of the world, in Asia as well. If we need to help countries, we need to show everything to our nation. We need to make everything almost transparent. Actually, be transparent with our nation, what we're doing with our hard earned tax dollars in foreign countries. Everything, nothing left out. Because I believe, as we know, we are Africans. All those aids, when they got to Africa, we know that it didn't go to the right people. It went to the wrong people, and those people used that aid to subjugate our people. Every day people are still waking up hungry, people are still waking up HIV, um, with HIV AIDS, and they are dying. In South Africa, if you check the HIV stats, it's incredibly bad. So what could these aids be doing that's not spreading awareness? So we need to review all of those things, and wherever we need to fund, we should. Wherever we need to remove AIDS, I think we should remove aid. Yes, sir. um Oracle.
Uh, I agree with both of you today. I mean, today's issue is it's an easy one. I also agree that government should cut costs, especially on unnecessary spending. And I also agree that you need influence in some of these countries. You need big as regards building military base for strategic purposes, as regards ability to tap in some of their natural resources to remain great. But while you're doing that, there are better effective way that can be done. Review the money that is going, cut the one that is unnecessary, send the ones that are necessary, and put conditions to those money. For example, if I send you money, I have an expectation of what should be done. If it's come to review, if those things are not met or done, you will not get the money again. So that way, yeah, we're not just taking taxpayers' money and we're sending it to places where it's not being used to do the right thing. And very important, I must also say this year, there was a circulation by a Republican congressman that said America was directly sponsoring terrorists. I think that statement is foul. The U.S. aids is not used to sponsor terrorists. So in some cases, could the money have gone to wrong people? Yes, but the claims that the money is used to sponsor terrorists is false. I think it's very important because a lot of people ask me that question. So I'm using this medium to debunk. But ultimately, I still think America is a superpower. And I agree with Aisho, they must remain a superpower because this is still the only country, regardless of how you may feel, that still gives room to immigrants to grow. The richest guy in the world today is Elon. Is not an American. He's a South African. Russia or China. Mm-mm. People, I have friends who have stayed in Russia. I mean, in China briefly. It was hell. The racism, all of these things is still very much high in those places. So such countries should not become a superpower. I mean, they can be what they are right now. They're one of the countries you agree with. They're doing well. Same as Russia. I mean, I don't think Russians are racist. It's just that, you know, their system of government is more of a dictator. You don't want one guy forever determining what is going on. At least with America, opinions, ideas, changes are time to time. There's Republicans, there's Democrat, and these people win election, and it shaping the world, brings in different ideas. Some we may not like, some we may like, and some you may be indifferent or think it could be reformed. So ultimately, America needs to still remain that superpower and big brother. While they're doing that, they must still protect Americans here at home and, do what they have to do outside within the confines of common sense and the law. So that's my position. Thank you.
Yes. So please like and subscribe. Thank you for coming back to the Pragmatic Approach channel. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Thank you.
Support Black business. Sorry, support Black podcast.
Peace.
See you next week, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.